have no idea where this will lead us, but I have a definite feeling it will be a place both wonderful and strange.
Welcome back to Investigating Twin Peaks. I'm JD.
And I'm Garon.
And this is our friend Tim. Mr. Gartha, you are our guest today. What is your history with the show?
I have no history with this show. I just saw either the 4th or the 5th episode, depending on how you do it. Yeah, I've seen the pilot 4 times over the last 12 years, and that's it.
And that's it. But you've seen every episode up until now?
Yes, I have seen it once.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who introduced it to you?
I believe my friend Evan introduced me to the show back in, actually a very long time ago, back in high school, I believe.
Doesn't Evan have a fun and interesting story about the co-creator of Twin Peaks, David Lynch?
The co-creator?
Yeah, David Lynch.
I'm afraid I don't recall.
I heard Evan maybe he just told me the story, that Lynch went to the college that Evan went to.
I never heard the story.
Okay. Well, supposedly Lynch he's an alum of Evan's college.
Oh, Evergreen.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And Evan was assigned certain people to call to see if they would donate some funds to the school.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. You remember this story now.
Do you want to take over and tell
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So, Evan was forced to call the alumni, and eventually he moved down the list, and it was, Laramie and Lennox, and he just got down the list, and it was a D. Lynch. He's like, okay. And he's like,
and Evan's a big fan.
Yeah, Evan is a huge fan of David Lynch. And he made it all the way down the list, and so he's just like, all right. So he called the house, and a woman answered. And Evan said, could I speak to Mr. Lynch, please? And she said, oh, Thursday, he's in the bath. And, he was just like, well, do you expect him to be long? And she's like, yeah, Thursday's his bath day.
That's awesome.
I had forgotten that story.
So, so far in the series, not including this episode yet, what are your thoughts and opinion on it?
I really like it. I overall really enjoy David Lynch. I like the distance that he has from the story that he tells most of the time. Like, it doesn't. A lot of people are like, oh, there's so much like artifice, and they're not into it. I like it, but I feel the distance does stop me from having like a warm feeling about it. Like, he feels like, like someone conducting like an experiment.
Okay.
But that he loves what he's conducting an experiment on.
But almost like the characters are subjects. Do you feel like?
Yeah, they're subjects, and at times they're caricatures.
Okay.
But I feel like it's deliberate, but at the same time it's like, well, that's the artistic choice that you've made.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop me from really liking his movies. Probably Wild at Heart would be my favorite.
That's a damn fine film.
Yeah.
Damn fine.
Yeah.
Like this pie.
This is officially, it's called episode 3, but it goes by another title, which is Rest in Pain. It's sometimes referred to as such.
Did I know that? Did we know that?
No.
Did you just now tell us?
I just told you.
Awesome. Okay.
And Garon, now that you are 4 episodes in, what are some of your thoughts that you have on the series?
Let's see. Because taking notes and going back to the pilot or episode 1 or the pilot and seeing how we talked about it being a slower start, and it's still a slow pace, but it's still enough where it goes back to, talking about like the small town atmosphere and the small town of like, you're putting things together, you're putting, the things that the people I didn't like are starting to build up to it, kind of to where it's like, okay.
They're growing on you.
Yeah, you're growing on me, and I'm like, okay, you're learning more about, you're seeing their personalities come out, even if they're short scenes, even if they're, quick snippets, you're still like, I want more. What happened there? But it's, it's enough to keep you going.
Yeah, I think one of the positive things about having such a large cast at this point, every scene that you're given with the cast, I think, furthers the story and the show as a whole, each scene still really counts because you haven't spent enough time with each character.
Yeah, I've noticed. I noticed myself watching it going. I don't know if I'm diving too deep. I don't know if that's even possible, really. But each scene being like, was I supposed to catch something in that? Was there something in this that I was, and it could be just like it was a quick one. You're like, wait, there was nothing there, or wait, now that I'm 4 episodes in, you're like, no, what was there? Even if I didn't see it, I might not have seen it. But it's like just taking from watching the previous episodes and little things here and there, being like, they don't do certain things for nothing.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not, even though it's slow paced, it's not a thrown away kind of show.
I would agree. I think even the mundane within every scene is very deliberate, because if something seems out of place, and it can be a certain color or a certain abstract item in the background, your eye is deliberately drawn to all those things that seem out of place in this ordinary environment.
Yeah.
Because it is so ultra ordinary, it becomes extraordinary.
Yeah.
How do you separate that though, like from like the acting style?
Well, the acting style, is, we were talking about in an earlier episode of Investigating Twin Peaks, that it is so ultra dramatic and is such a soap opera. Like, it uses, and in this episode there's
literally a soap opera.
It's called Invitation to Love. And the episode, we're watching the introduction to Invitation of Love, and it says, here's this actress and she plays these two characters. In that same scene, here comes Cheryl Lee, who plays Laura Palmer as her cousin Madeline, which is excellent because it's an homage to Hitchcock's Vertigo, which is perfect.
Okay.
The actress that is made up into another character is named Madeline.
Madeline. Yeah, he's always saying that.
So those are very deliberate, and it is, okay, we're going to get away with it because we're making fun of it before you can make fun of it.
Yeah.
So we're just doing it. We get it. This is absurd. But here she is, and she's the cousin.
I feel like the show, it's so much fun though. Like, I feel like you have to come to a place, you have to come to making fun of this show from such a cynical place to begin with, because there's so much to enjoy about it. Like, even if certain things are like off-putting to you, it's like beautifully shot. Like, the actors are like all really engaging. It's like
the music is
gorgeous. It's like, I don't know. It's sad that shows have to do that sometimes. They have to like account for a cynical audience.
Do you think?
Wow. Yeah.
Do you think that was deliberate? Do you feel like they put that soap opera in there because they expected people to do that, or because they wanted to just have even more fun with it?
I think because they want to have even more fun with it.
Cool.
I think after the Granny and all those like weird short films that David Lynch did, like, he's probably heard every criticism of his work at that point.
Even at that point.
Oh, yeah. Like, if you want to be the person to make fun of that, and I'm sure people were, that like, yeah, but he didn't care. He was just like, well, I want to do a TV show.
Yeah, you're probably right, because this is after Dune, which was a catastrophe.
But still wonderful.
I need to rewatch it. Kevin Smith, actually, I was just watching a podcast of his today, and him and his co-host Mark Bernardin, where Dune came up because they're remaking it, and they were just loving. They were just loving Lynch's Dune.
Yeah,
like, it's so great. I want to give it another shot.
It's a blast. I love it.
In this episode, I absolutely adored the funeral scene.
Yeah.
I think that is such a sharp. It's, again, the music. It's perfectly timed, and a certain song can come in and control your mood and point you in a different direction, and then it stops, and before you realize it, another tune comes in, and it's a different mood and a different piece. And I think that there's so much happening within that funeral scene. I watch it now. You were laughing when Leland jumped on it.
I was laughing through most of it.
And I couldn't help but laugh as well with you.
Yeah, no, there was moments with like how it was had the soap opera effect, but like with the same thing as far as like the funeral goes, I've seen that happen before. I've seen I've experienced that with my stepmom and her dad, like straight up, where the casket closed and she died at a very young age, and just the dad just breaking down. Right, as soon as that casket closes, it's like that's it. Like you say bye, casket closes, falls on top of the casket and breaks down. You see this older man breaking down like to his, and it's impactful. So that's why I can see going back and rewatching this scene. At first, it's like, oh, it's so soap opera. Oh, it's kind of comical because of how it does it. But some of the most saddest moments in life are comical because your emotions take you there, and it's like, and like so it's like, oh my god, that's so. And the thing going up and down adds to the comical part of it. But I see watching it again would be like, oh yeah, no, that's exactly what would happen if you lost, especially if your daughter or son goes before you. That's just like, that's not supposed to happen. So,
yeah, I think this series excels at that duality. I think when you have this thing that is so tragic, and when you're in it and you're witnessing it, it's so awkward and uncomfortable. But if you were to take a camera and go 10 feet in the air and just bird's eye view it, it would look comical.
Well, it's interesting in that because there's no, I think there is an establishing shot, but it's still pretty tight. And most of the shots in that, it's not even groups of people. It's like all individual actors. And then it gets a little wider when the fight breaks out. But aside from that, like now they would never do that. There would always have to be that dumb crane shot that goes over and it's like, oh, that's sadness. This is just like, it doesn't let the soap opera thing go. It's just like boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, and I think that this is the first episode that's not written by Lynch and Frost. It's written by a gentleman named Harley Payton, who writes several other episodes in the series. And I think Lynch and Frost they provide an outline to the writers. They would block out the episode and then give it to the writers, and they would do the thorough one, and then Lynch and Frost would kind of come and do a polish on it. And the director of the episode was Tina Rathborn. I think she directs one more episode in the series as well. And they're still working in the sandbox that Lynch and Frost created. And they're doing, I think, an excellent job of it in this episode. And I think that the way that it's shot and the way that it's filmed, it is, I don't know, there's a beauty to it, and it's difficult to put into words because, like you're saying with the funeral, they do a quick wide, but then they go in on different characters as the priest is talking and he's talking over it, and the choices of the certain characters are really interesting. And the build-up of when James gets there and Bobby starts talking, and I think the actor who plays Bobby, I think it's a shining moment. I think that he certainly has not been that good or has had that much to do really that. But I think it's the first point, at least in the series so far, that you can root for him. And I like that he's calling everybody else hypocrites, but he's not shirking his own responsibility in doing exactly the same.
Calls himself out.
You're right. And I think that is great. And then them going together and the use of slow motion stuff, it gives me goosebumps. I kind of adore it. Yeah, with Bobby talking about those things and Laura's duality, everybody knowing these things or suspecting there's a lot going on, that she was in trouble underneath the surface. I've known many women, many people that on the surface they're involved with all of these extraordinary. So many people are eager to help other people and much better at helping others than they are at helping themselves. I am certainly guilty of that, and I think it's one of the endless pieces of the puzzle in a lot of people's lives. Why are you so quick and eager to help others, but you have a difficult time helping yourself and getting out of your rabbit hole that you're falling into? And it certainly does not feel like, well, this is absurd. If she's the prom queen, if she's helping this guy, if she's doing this, then how could she be taking drugs and all the involved with all this? And she had sexual relations with 3 people that night that she did.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
It just feels real to me.
Having James show up in that moment, especially when, like, what was it, like, not even a scene, maybe one scene prior, it's like, I'm not going.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you know, and it's like, oh, look who shows up, you know, it's like, so.
And that's a perfect way to, like, very quickly establish tension. The character does exactly the opposite of what he just said.
That's funny. Yeah, like I couldn't with that scene. It was too much. Like the whole previous scene with him and his dad, like, and all the scenes with him and his dad, the military guy.
Oh, Bobby.
Yeah.
Bobby and his dad, the major.
Yeah, the major is just like their scenes are so funny and it's so ridiculous that it's like that kind of carried over. So it took me like halfway through that scene to stop thinking about this like smoking's a filthy habit, especially for a varsity athlete. So like I don't know. I think it's that's something that's really fun about something that's really stylized, is that you can enjoy it on different levels.
It allows you in some ways to embrace the overly dramatic parts of it because they are so.
Because it's all very dramatic. Yeah.
That, like, when the major is talking, or I love Albert, Miguel Ferrer, who just actually passed away a couple weeks ago, is so good in this episode. And the dialogue he's given, actually, Harley Peyton writes most of his best scenes throughout the series. It's just like rapid fire dialogue, and Miguel Ferrer just like kills.
I was actually gonna
good.
Something I really noticed with that scene is I really felt like he was doing like a Jack Webb thing, like Dragnet.
Oh, okay.
He's just like, except instead of conveying information and exposition like Joe Friday would do, it's just insults and like vile the other characters. You're a dunce. You're vile. You're stupid. You're a dithering fool. You're a dunce. Just like
the director, Tina Rathborn, said that she was so impressed with Miguel. Is it Miguel Ferrer? Ferrer.
Yeah.
With his delivery. It was his decision to read this stuff and to deliver it in that certain way that all of the cast and crew were just dying, I guess, like just out of fright.
Yeah.
What is he doing with this? And I guess that inspired Harley Peyton in later episodes to just go
give
for
him
it.
more dialogue like that. Yeah.
Because what I noticed about his character is, even when, you know, Bobby was blowing up and, you know, everybody's yelling and stuff, nobody has Miguel's pace and delivery, no matter what they're saying, even when they're saying it. Like, it's almost like the whole thing's slow paced, even with the, you know, high emotions and stuff like that. But then when he says, it's like he is from a different world.
Yeah, he's a city
it's perfect.
slicker.
He's from a different land. You know, it's
no, that's actually an
which
point.
is perfect. It shows that he's not from there. It shows that not connection, but disconnection from everybody else.
And I think that's a brilliant choice of his as an actor, because Kyle MacLachlan as Cooper, when he talks to Albert, he talks very coldly, like bluntly to the point. And Albert has this rapid fire thing, like they're moving at a different pace than anybody else in the town. Like the major, he still has this kind of calm, deliberate, like, no son, you can share like with me, you know, but he goes off on these things. But it is cool that Miguel Ferrer like just goes for it, and that's a very difficult thing as an actor. Boy, he's given a lot to say, and he doesn't trip up at all. Like, he needed to know his lines.
He's like, we're here, we're there, this is what I found, this is what I think has happened, this is what it. It's just like that. They're sitting there just like, repeat that again. You know?
Yeah, he's got, you know, the scene at the beginning when he's trying to do the autopsy, or more of an autopsy on Laura than may have been appropriate. And then later on when he's sharing the evidence, which is really just exposition essentially. And it's fascinating. It's like you're really listening to somebody that is telling you vital information. You're trying to keep up to everything he's saying. Like, wow, all this stuff is really
Girl, I'd have it.
It's like, all right, great. It's like, and by that point, every time he shows up, and especially at that point where he's, you know, listing everything that he found, you've already gotten associated and used to how everybody else talks. So it's that like, okay, I have time to understand what people are saying and put things together. And then he comes in, and we got this and this, and it's like, whoa, slow down a bit. All right, I feel like I'm from
Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks now.
The town has got you.
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, okay, well, what did he say again? What? I heard twine. That's what I heard, you know?
Two types of twine.
Two types of twine.
Albert, one of the things he says the twine, the different twine, and she was back, like, tied like this, which tied into Coop's dream. Sometimes my arms bend back. Albert mentions there's some type of marks on her that may have been made by some type of animal.
And the fact that it seems like she was kissed too at the very end, but almost to the point where the person washed their hands.
Yeah, Albert said that he washed his hands after whatever deed, and then leaned in to kiss her like this, with the whatever was on his
residue.
hand.
Not her household soap.
Not her household soap. Yeah, wow, rapid fire.
Yeah.
Amount of information.
Like, I'm over here like writing down, just like, okay, yep.
Yeah, especially when you consider that when Jack Webb used to do dialogue like that, he just cheated and he had his lines
right next to the
Yeah, there was. Yeah, he was basically. Yeah, he was reading off cue cards and stuff.
Yeah, Miguel Ferrer was certainly not, and I know that he was suffering the last couple years, but I'm very grateful and looking forward to him being in the third season.
That's awesome.
I can't wait to see that character and him again. So, going back to the beginning of the episode, we've got Cooper in the Great Northern, and it's the morning following his dream, and telling Harry Truman that he knows who killed Laura Palmer, and it can wait until morning.
It can wait.
And then he's got a great scene with Audrey, and the two of them, I feel like their chemistry is really palpable. I like them a lot together. And he figures out that she wrote the note to him, Jack with one eye. And then they come, and he tells them about this dream that he had. And he does it in an interesting way, because there's certain things that he mentions, and there's things that you see in the ending of the European version of the pilot, but you don't see at the end of the second episode within the dream. The dream was filmed backwards, and the actors needed to learn their lines backwards and how to speak backwards so that they could flip it and still kind of have some sense of what they're saying. You can kind of understand it. It's funny, I guess Michael J. Anderson, who plays the little man, that was a code that he used in high school with his friends, or elementary school, so he already knew how to talk backwards. Like,
What?
yeah,
Oh, that's
Lynch
awesome.
was like, you're going to have to learn how to talk
Perfect.
backwards.
Like
already know how.
Zatanna.
And Anderson just said, I already know how, Mr. Lynch.
That's wonderful.
But it starts with the little man rubbing his hands together, and the shadow goes behind him along the red drapes. And in the script, that shadow is supposed to be the shadow of a large bird. And Cooper says, one of the things I love that he says to Harry, break the code, solve the crime. That the dream is a code. And it's true. My mom, which is impossible, I don't know how, guessed who the killer was in the pilot. But in this episode, the first time I watched it, this was the episode that I was like, I think it's so-and-so.
Gotcha.
And then later on, a few episodes later, I reiterated it, and I ended up being right. So there is a way to put the code and break the code. I think Leland is a fascinating character, and I love that since this tragedy, he's drawn to the facade of innocence, like these, like dancing and the music that really kind of triggers his insanity. Is, again, I think it's that longing for something innocence, because he's so far into the darkness right now.
Oh, he's
that
gone.
He just, like, he can't deal with this at all.
Gone.
And it is impossible not to laugh, and I think Ray Wise, who plays Leland, is amazing in this series, and his face can go from, oh boy, like, you are so far gone, to so broken and sad, to insane, to, I don't know, it's just lovely to watch him work in the show.
He's utterly sincere and utterly ridiculous at the same time.
Yeah.
His sincerity, regardless of what's happening, he's always so sincere.
No matter how ridiculous the proceedings.
Yeah.
And there's something about his eyes that you can't help but be drawn to him and feel for him, whatever is going on and whatever you're feeling for him, you're feeling for him. Cooper and Harry go to question Mr. Leo Johnson at his house, and he's just impressively chopping wood. Any thoughts on him in that scene?
Yeah, impressively chopping wood. Well done, sir. Well done. It's the wording of how did I feel on him on that scene. Because adding that scene plus the later on scene
Oh, with the drugs?
where the drugs kind of adds to it. To where it's like, I don't think he has to do with it.
With the killing of Laura?
Killing,
Okay.
but it's one of those things where he's still, it's like, yeah, it's them coming to him trying to like talk to him about that. So it's like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but really I'm hiding this even bigger thing that you've also been looking for.
Okay.
Cooper, great Cooper.
Yeah, he's an excellent POV character because I think he asks the questions that we want asked, and at the same time, he attains this level of joy and wonder to things that we may take for granted. So we would like to go back and wish that we had that ability to still be able to get such pleasure out of such simple things.
Yeah.
And for a POV character, for us to want to attain things that a POV character has is interesting because usually the POV character is such almost too relatable. They're such the everyman.
Yeah, the tape recorder is pretty essential, I feel like, because it kind of is like you can pay as much or as little attention to that as you want to, and it kind of gives him more of a personality than he really has.
Oh, okay.
Like he's after every scene with the tape recorder, you can kind of think about it for a minute after and just be like, oh, what is this? Like, what was his life before this? And at the same time, it's totally incidental. It's a nice device, I feel like.
Yeah, it's a super device, especially for a person that's entering a town like this that he's never been to. He doesn't know anyone.
Yeah.
You do need that link to his past, to the outside.
Yeah.
And that provides it in a very simple, brilliant way.
And you get the idea that he does that for every case, which is like the beauty of it.
Talking about the diner scene, they introduce Cooper to, there's this presence or darkness in the woods, and it's been there for as long as anybody has been there. And I think we're entering certain things. This episode is really full of important mythology for the series, and it's kind of throwaway, it's kind of snippets, because that's all Harry says. There's this presence and this darkness in the wood that's always been there, and ever since it's been there, we've been here to challenge it. And there's Cooper like, a secret society.
Yeah.
He's so excited.
Yeah.
As I am a viewer, like just, this is brilliant. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And they are introduced to the Bookhouse and the Bookhouse Boys, and they all do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the pilot episode, Hawk and Big Ed, when they're at the police station, they actually do that to each other. And there's nothing mentioned at all about it.
Yeah.
It's just they do that, and then they walk away. And you almost kind of are just like, just another weird thing, like the log lady, like what the hell, But it's great that they go back to it in this episode.
When they walked into the book house, this is kind of what went through my mind. I was like, because even though the timeline is different, but I was like, is this the kids from Stranger Things growing up? This is exactly what I would picture them being like. We've been doing this, we've been around here fighting this forever. It's in the woods, we got this going on. It's like, and it just connects things even more, like how I even said from the first video, how that's the emotion I had watching this for the first time after watching Stranger Things. So, but yeah, that went through my head. I was like,
yeah, you're kind of watching it backwards.
Yeah, you're watching it, you're just like, oh, no, this is okay, But, yeah, that's just like a little fun tidbit that kind of went through my head when they walked in and, you see the people who are part of this society, in this secret group. And it's because you saw...
it is almost like exactly what you said, like, you could see the evolution of those kids around the table of Stranger Things and the role-playing stuff.
Yeah.
If they were to create a secret society and have an actual thing to battle,
yeah.
they would keep that, like, oh, well, we have to have a code.
Yeah.
To like,
Yeah.
oh, that, you know,
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which is, yeah, it's great to see how that's connected, and I'm grateful for the fact that that show has come out, because it's like I wouldn't have had that connection with it. It would have been, I mean, it still would have been a moment. It still would have been, oh, it's great. You know, it's like
The influence of Twin Peaks on Stranger Things
yeah,
is so undeniable.
mm-hmm.
It makes you appreciate Twin Peaks in a way that you might not.
yeah,
Because you love Stranger Things so
Yeah,
much,
yeah.
which wouldn't exist without Twin Peaks.
exactly. So it's like yeah,
Yeah, same thing with like Dr. Jacoby. He's like echoed, I feel like, down the line with like other characters.
Yeah, Fringe is an awesome show, and Tim and I went through it, and it's very much worthwhile if you've never seen it. And there's a character in there named Walter Bishop, and he actually, in this one episode, wears Dr. Jacoby's glasses with the red and the blue, and even says, a friend of mine sent me these glasses of his, Dr. Jacoby. When he shows up at the funeral at the end, there's another scene to talk about. I think that it's really cool because this episode, I think the funeral might be the only scene in the series where all the characters are present together. And to go from something like that in the same setting where it's just Jacoby and Cooper at night, I think is a real great juxtaposition. I think that Jacoby suddenly becomes a real character as well.
we've seen a lot of like snippets of each person kind of thing, but then we see Josie. Is it Josie?
Josie Packard, yeah.
Yep, Packard. And those moments that she was having. And
You got a little crush?
Oh, who wouldn't?
She's lovely.
And but the scene with her showing the safe and how they're having two books and how she feels like they're on to her, or they're trying to, you know, take her out of everything.
There's a lot of information
There's
there
lots,
in the last
yeah.
couple episodes as well, that she was married to Andrew Packard, who Catherine, the redhead, that's her brother.
Okay.
So Josie was married to Andrew. He died and left
okay.
everything to Josie. And
Gotcha.
Catherine is not happy
It's
about
not.
it.
She
So
can tell.
her and Ben Horn may or may not be in cahoots to get Josie out of the way.
So yeah, no, just seeing that and having like the two different
Ledgers.
the ledgers and, like, and then having that. There's so many secret, like, it's crazy how like this small town and everybody has their own little safes and their own little, you know, like
Yeah, the voyeur hole
Yeah,
that
the
Audrey
hole,
uses
you
was a
go
lot of fun
in,
when she
you
sees
know.
the headdress being
Yeah.
removed.
You're just like, what
It's
is-
true, and it's very difficult to know which storylines to keep real track of and
Yeah.
to pay particular attention to.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, everyone, every storyline,
Yeah.
you are supposed to pay attention to. And I think at this point in the series, every storyline has been given care to, and they are hoping that you are at least, regardless if it has something to do with the murder or not, that hopefully you're as engrossed with every single
Yeah.
story. Norma's husband is in jail for manslaughter, and he's potentially going to get released soon.
Which it seemed like, I don't know if it was just me, she didn't want him to be released.
Well, she's with Big Ed.
Yeah,
she's
so
in love with Ed.
So it's like, if she had a choice, I was like, would you like? Because they're like, well, as long as you sign here, well, you know, we'll file the paperwork.
Here we
It's
go.
like, well, all right, here we go. You guys thought you had a murder on your case. Well, wait for it. It's got to
Wait till
be.
you see this kid.
Yeah, wait till you see this guy. But so yeah, it's just a little moment.
Any final thoughts, Mr. Tim, on this episode or this series so far as a whole?
I think in some way it was giving me some like Carnival feelings. It actually reminds me a bit of Carnival, not just because of Michael Anderson, but
Who's brilliant in Carnival. Carnival is brilliant. Watch
yeah,
it.
Carnival's great.
Don't be scared by people saying it's got a terrible ending and it's not satisfying. Watch it.
Yeah, it's
great.
awesome. I
It's
mean,
awesome.
very much like that, where there's a ton of storylines, and eventually you will come to the place where, well, I care about this one not so much, but they're all they didn't bore me. It never got to that. It was always like, these are all interesting storylines.
Yeah, they're all of equality.
Mm-hmm.
At this point in the series, it takes a bit of a dive in the second season. But there are still storylines that are amazing and excellent throughout. Any thoughts for you? Any final thoughts on the episode?
I mean, again, still, what, episode 4 or 3, depending how you look at it, 4 or 5, and you're still intrigued enough to keep going.
What did you think of that red herring the end of the third episode, I know who killed Laura, and the next episode starts with him being like, I can't remember.
I can't. She told me. She told me. And I can't remember. I laughed because it was
You did, right?
2 seconds prior or that night before. He's like, no, it can wait. And then this happened. And I remember this and I remember that. And she whispered to me who killed, but I forgot.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem concerned that he forgot. It's just like, oh, solve it eventually.
Yeah, he's almost like more intrigued now. Like it's like, great, another mystery within a mystery that I can finally,
And I think it's interesting because I think you as an audience person, you're not gonna throw the table over and be like, the hell with this show.
Yeah.
You're just, oh, this is great. He doesn't remember.
Well,
we just have to crack the code.
Episode 4 is a good time to do that because there's a lot of shows which is, it's season 5 and they're doing that.
Right.
And
then it's like, come on.
Yeah. Well, that was another episode. Thank you guys for watching, investigating Twin Peaks with us. I'm Garon.
I'm JD.
And I'm Tim.
Sweet dreams.
Mm-hmm.